CCTV cameras are everywhere, watching, recording. We trust them to capture the truth, the hard facts of our daily lives. But what happens when they record something that defies all logic? Something that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up? Tonight, we're diving deep into the digital abyss to uncover footage that was never meant to be seen. I'm about to show you 4 genuinely unsettling moments caught on camera, each more mysterious and spine-chilling than the last. These aren't special effects. This is real footage that will make you question what lurks in the shadows when we're not looking. Are you ready? Make sure the doors are locked and let's begin. Eerie, atmospheric music begins and fades slightly into the background. Have you ever felt that unsettling sensation of being watched? That prickle on the back of your neck that tells you something isn't right? Tonight, we're diving into a story that will make you double-check your locks and question every shadow outside your window. This is a tale that starts on a quiet suburban street, the kind of place you move to for peace, and ends with a question that can never truly be answered. Imagine this, you've just moved into your dream home. It's your sanctuary, your safe space. That's exactly what Ethan thought when he settled into his new house on a street so quiet, the loudest sound at night was the wind rustling through the trees. Like many new homeowners, he installed security cameras. Not for anything serious, really. Just to keep an eye out for package deliveries or the occasional stray cat. It was a habit, a modern-day ritual for peace of mind. One night, around 11:30, Ethan was doing his usual routine, casually scrolling through the live footage on his laptop before heading to bed. The grainy, black and white feed showed the familiar empty street. A car's headlights would occasionally sweep across the screen, then disappear, leaving the familiar darkness behind. Everything was normal. Everything was quiet. Until it wasn't. Something flickered at the edge of the frame, a shadow. It was hovering just at the edge of his neighbor's driveway, in that in-between space where the streetlight doesn't quite reach. Ethan leaned in, his curiosity piqued. Was it just a neighbor taking out their trash late at night? But the figure wasn't moving like a person on a simple chore. Its movements were slow, deliberate, and unnervingly patient. Then it stepped forward, emerging from the deep shadows and into the dim glow of the street lamp. The figure was cloaked in a dark, hooded jacket, its face completely obscured. It wasn't moving, it wasn't doing anything, it was just standing there, staring directly at Ethan's house. A cold knot of dread tightened in his stomach. This wasn't a neighbor. This wasn't random. This felt personal. His heart began to pound against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the silent house. His first instinct was to call for help, to dial the police. He fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking, but when he looked at the screen, his blood ran even colder. No signal, not a single bar. The connection to the outside world was severed, leaving him isolated with the silent observer across the street. Minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity. Ethan's mind raced, replaying every horror movie trope he'd ever seen. Was someone planning a break-in? Were they waiting for him to fall asleep? The questions swirled, each one more terrifying than the last. He was trapped, a spectator to his own potential nightmare, his only link to the outside world being the very camera feed that was showing him the source of his terror. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure did something impossible. It took one deliberate step back into the driveway, paused for a fraction of a second, and then ... it was gone. It didn't walk away. It didn't run. It simply vanished. One moment it was there, a solid, menacing presence, and the next, there was nothing but empty pavement and the eerie, unblinking stillness of the night. Frantically, Ethan toggled between his other camera angles. The side of the house, the backyard, the front porch, nothing. No sign of a car speeding away. No sound of footsteps retreating down the sidewalk. It was as if the figure had been a ghost, a glitch in the matrix. But Ethan knew what he saw. It was real. The rest of the night was sleepless. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside sent a fresh jolt of fear through him. The morning sun brought little relief. When the police finally arrived, they conducted a thorough search. At first, they found nothing, almost dismissing it as an overactive imagination fueled by a late night. But then one of the officers noticed it. On the front door, almost invisible to the naked eye, were fresh scratch marks. They were small, precise, as if someone had been testing the lock, trying to find a way in, silently. Whoever or whatever had been standing across the street hadn't just been watching, it had been close. Close enough to touch his home. Ethan never felt safe in that house again. The sense of security was shattered, replaced by the haunting memory of the silent, hooded figure and the chilling realization that sometimes the greatest horrors aren't the ones that make a sound. Ever feel like someone's watching you? Lena sure did. After a string of break-ins rattled her neighborhood, she decided to fight back with technology, installing security cameras all over her house. Finally, she could sleep soundly, knowing she had digital eyes keeping watch. A quick peek at her phone was all it took to confirm her home was secure. At least that's what she thought. One night, scrolling through the live feeds from the comfort of her bed, her heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong. The basement door, the one she triple-checked and locked every single night without fail, was slightly ajar. Chills crept up her spine. She hadn't been anywhere near it. She pulled up the recorded footage, her thumb hovering over the timeline. The timestamp confirmed it. The door had moved just a few minutes ago. But how? Her hand started to shake as she rewound the clip, her eyes glued to the screen. Frame by frame, she watched the door slowly, silently swing open. It had to be a draft, right? A trick of the light? She squinted, leaning closer to her phone. And that's when she saw it. A figure emerging from the inky blackness of the basement. It was a dark silhouette, hunched over, moving with an unnatural, creeping motion along the wall. It didn't have a face, no features at all. Just a void of pure blackness where a face should be, her breath hitched in her throat. This wasn't a burglar. This was something else entirely. Panic set in. She fumbled for her phone, her trembling fingers barely able to dial 911. As she whispered her address to the dispatcher, her eyes flickered back to the camera feeds. The figure was gone from the basement. A wave of relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. She switched to the kitchen camera. And there it was, standing in the middle of her kitchen. It was inside. The police told her they were on their way, but every second felt like an eternity. She didn't dare make a sound, buried under her blankets, praying they would arrive soon. Her gaze was locked on her phone, on the live feed from the camera in her own bedroom. The video was still, showing her own sleeping form, peaceful and unaware. And then the shadow seeped into the frame. It glided silently to her bedside, its formless head tilting as it leaned down, down, down right over her. Lena screamed. The police arrived to find her in a state of absolute terror, but the house was empty. There were no signs of forced entry, nothing was stolen. It was as if the figure had simply vanished. Have you ever worked a night shift completely alone? You know that feeling when the silence gets so loud it starts playing tricks on your mind? For Luis, a gas station attendant at Mile 92, the tricks weren't in his head, they were on camera. Mile 92 isn't just a gas station. It's an island of flickering fluorescent light in an ocean of darkness. A lonely outpost on a desolate highway where, after midnight, the only company is the hum of the coolers and the whisper of the wind. One night, around 2 a.m., Luis was doing his usual routine, wiping down counters, checking stock, and keeping one eye on the bank of CCTV monitors. That's when he saw her. On screen 4, which covered the outer pumps, a figure stood motionless. A woman with long, dark hair that fell over her face like a curtain. She was just ... standing there. No car, no sound, just a pale, solitary shape under the sickly yellow glow of the station lights. Luis leaned closer to the monitor, his heart giving a little thud. It had to be a glitch, right? A smudge on the lens or a trick of the light. He switched through the camera feeds. 1, 2, 3, and back to 4. She was still there. Her head was tilted slightly, and even though he couldn't see her face, he felt an unnerving certainty she was staring directly into the camera lens. At him, he kept watching, his breath held tight in his chest. For what felt like an eternity, she didn't move a muscle. Not a twitch, not a single shift in her weight. The world outside was dead silent. Then the monitor flickered. A split second of static, like an electronic sneeze. When the picture cleared, Luce's blood ran cold. She was closer, significantly closer. She hadn't walked, she hadn't run, she had just moved. From the far pumps to the edge of the concrete island, crossing a 30-foot distance in the blink of an eye. It was like she had teleported, her feet never touching the ground. His hands were shaking now. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't his imagination. He fumbled for his phone and called his manager, his voice a strained whisper. "You need to see this. Right now." The manager, groggy and annoyed, logged into the remote feed from his home computer. "Louis, what are you talking about?" "There's no one there. The lot's empty." Luis frantically scanned the real-life gas station through the plate glass window. The manager was right. There was nothing. Just empty asphalt and the lonely highway stretching into the void. But on the screen, she was still there. And she was moving again. Another flicker, and she was at the door of the convenience store. Her hand, long and white, was almost touching the glass. Luis stumbled backward, knocking over a display of chips. He could feel the cold radiating from the spot where she was supposedly standing. He yelled into the phone, "She's at the door!" "She's right at the door." But his manager just heard panic. "Calm down, Liz, I'm watching the live feed." There is nobody there. They reviewed the recorded footage together. In real time, the station was empty. But the recording told a different story. It showed every terrifying second of the woman's impossible journey across the lot. Frame by chilling frame. Later, when the footage was enhanced, they discovered the most horrifying detail of all. In the brief moment her hair shifted, you could see her eyes. They weren't just dark. They were solid black orbs, pits of absolute nothingness. And in every single frame, from the moment she first appeared until she vanished from the recording, those empty eyes were locked directly on Luis quit that night. He walked out, got in his car, and didn't look back. The police were called, but they found no one, no footprints, no evidence that anyone had been there at all. The gas station still stands at mile 92, and the cameras are still rolling. The official report called it a technical malfunction, but the footage remains, locked away, a digital ghost in the machine, a silent reminder that sometimes the things that watch us are the ones we can never see coming. What do you think? Have you ever worked a night shift? That long, silent stretch between midnight and dawn, where the world outside sleeps and the building around you seems to hold its breath. For Alex, a security guard at an old, sprawling hospital, those quiet hours were usually the most peaceful. Just him, the hum of the monitors, and the occasional squeak of his own shoes on the linoleum floors. But one night, that peace was shattered. It started as a flicker on screen C4, the camera pointed down the long, disused East Wing hallway. A figure, a woman, moving with a slow, deliberate grace. Alex leaned in, squinting. Her clothes were strange. A long, dark dress, a hairstyle you'd see in a black and white movie. She walked without a sound, a silent phantom gliding across the polished floor. Thinking it might be a disoriented patient or a staff member on a break, Alex picked up the radio. "Security to East Wing, we have a possible unauthorized individual on camera C4. Anyone copy?" Silence. He checked the other monitors. Every other hallway was empty. Every door was locked. He toggled back to C4. She was still there, halfway down the hall. Now, he zoomed in. Her face was pale, indistinct in the grainy footage. But something about her stillness sent a shiver down his spine. He decided to do a physical check. Grabbing his keys and a heavy flashlight, he made his way to the East Wing. The air grew colder as he approached, the usual hospital smell of antiseptic replaced by something old, like dust and dried flowers. He pushed open the heavy double doors. The hallway was empty. Completely, utterly empty. Not a sound, not a soul. He walked its length, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, finding nothing but peeling paint and forgotten gurneys. Back in the security office, his heart was pounding. He rewound the footage. There she was, clear as day on the screen, walking the very same hallway he had just found deserted. He watched as her image reached the end of the hall, turned a corner that didn't exist, and simply vanished. Confused and unnerved, Alex started digging. He pulled up the archived footage from the night before, and the night before that. His blood ran cold. There she was. Every single night at precisely 2:47 a.m., The silent woman in the old-fashioned dress would begin her lonely walk down the empty corridor. He kept watching, night after night, a morbid fascination mixing with pure terror. He never tried to walk the hall again. He just watched her on the monitor. Sometimes, as she passed directly under the camera, she would stop. For a split second, her head would tilt upwards, and in that fleeting moment, through the static and the low resolution, Alex could have sworn she was looking right at him. Her eyes, two dark voids in a pale face, seemed to pierce through the screen, through the very fabric of time, locking onto his. He felt seen, hunted. Alex didn't last much longer at that hospital. He handed in his notice, citing personal reasons. But he couldn't leave it all behind. He copied the footage from those nights, saved it to a hard drive he keeps locked away. He tells himself it's to have proof, to show he wasn't crazy. But the truth is darker. Every now and then, in the dead of night, he plugs it in. He has to watch. He has to make sure she's still confined to those digital frames, still walking that haunted hallway on a forgotten tape. Because the alternative, the thought that she might one day step out of the screen and into his world, is a fear he can't bring himself to face. What do you think? Was she a ghost, a glitch in the system, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories that linger in the shadows, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unsettling tales. Stay safe out there.